Guys, it's Tuesday night, 8 o'clock. It's time for Proper Royals Live. I got Kai on the show tonight from Lucas Landon Royals, and I'll tell you a little behind-the-scenes secret. He likes to slow play me, so I started the show right on time tonight. We'll see when he wants to join us and grace us with his presence. Stick around. We got a fun show tonight coming up for you. We're going to talk about breeding, sales, DIY, snake areas, rats, and we got a couple cool kind of topics in the news to talk about as well. So we're going to catch up with all that. Stick around. Kai will be here. I know that for sure. All right. Maybe this one's on me. Kai says he doesn't have the StreamYard link from me, which is probably true, actually. I've been out on the road this week playing music, Southwest Florida for the past 4 days, so I've been working from the road. Let me make sure that Kai can join the show tonight as planned. Stick around for just 1 second here while I get him caught up. Nothing like jumping the gun to make for good television right here. Bam. All right. So while Kai's joining, no fault of his own, I'm going to have to apologize in person, do the whole mea culpa thing. While Kai is joining, hey, on a very, very serious note, if y'all have not had a chance to go to the USARC website, there's some legislation that was passed, and I'm probably going to mess some of this up, but I believe it was passed. No, I know for sure it was passed in Congress, and it heads to the Senate very soon. If you haven't contacted your state senators or your state's senators, these are the U.S. senators. Look, here's I don't want to tell you what to believe or what to go do, but here's what I want you to consider. In a very quick note, the legislation will limit interstate transport of basically all animals that are not cats or dogs. Is the first problem that we have with our hobby, obviously. The second is a little bit more nuanced, but it's just as important. It changes the burden of an animal's listing from a blacklist model, which is what it is now, so to a whitelist model. So a blacklist model is we identify a problem with an animal, we do the study, we find that maybe it shouldn't be there, i.e. the Burmese pythons in the Everglades area. Whether we agree or disagree with that, we let the science follow that they could live there, promulgate there, and they've become a problem. Okay, that's not going to happen in Minnesota. We probably don't need to blacklist Burmese pythons in Minnesota because they're not viable there. The model now goes to with this legislation would change to a whitelist model where essentially everything is blacklisted and species by species would have to be approved. Costs, lawyers, it's all just going to go underground and delegitimize our hobby. We can't let this pass. So go to USARC. They have pre-written forms that you can copy and paste to your senator. You can edit them, make them personal, your own. And there's links right to your senator's contacts. It's all right there on the USARC page. And you do not have to be a member. I recommend that you are. You do not have to have given a donation. Anybody can use those links. So check that out. Kai, how are you tonight?
Hey, Adam. Hi, everyone.
You an honest apology. I'm taking my foot out of my mouth here and giving you a hard time of the last time you were on the show, it was like 7:59 and you popped up and you're like, I'm always going to be here. So tonight I saw you in the chat. I was like, oh, he's slow playing me. I'll start without him. But yeah, I didn't get you the link. I'm sorry, man.
No worries. Can you guys hear me okay?
I can hear you. Yeah.
Okay.
You hear us?
Good.
You hear me?
I got a new headset. Remember the last time we did the holiday one and there's some feedback, some echoes?
Yeah. No, I got you cranked up actually on my end. I think you're clean.
Okay, cool.
Yeah. How have you been? Yeah, we haven't hung out since I don't know, maybe 5, 6 weeks, but that was in kind of a big group thing, man. Everything been going okay?
Yeah, everything's fine. Busy at work. Um, we just had Chinese New Year last Tuesday, so Chinese
Oh
New
yeah.
Year's is like it can last a full week if you wanted to.
Right.
Usually we have Chinese New Year last like a couple of days, but because of COVID, we had get-togethers, smaller get-togethers. So we actually had get-togethers like throughout the entire week, and the last one was on Saturday, which means that all the stuff that I had to do kind of just kept pushing back until Sunday, which is when you messaged me about, this. And I was like driving from point to point to point, and then in the middle, I saw your message and I try to respond back to you. But so it's funny because I know that I probably didn't do a good job at conveying or responding back to you. Um, and I just threw out these four topics. My intention was like to say I could talk about anything from this to this to this to this,
Yeah.
but you threw all four of them. They're like very broad topics, so we got plenty to talk about. But for those of you who are watching, thinking that we're going to cover everything in detail, probably not going to be able to do that in 1 hour. But let's get started. What do you want to go with first? You want to do sales?
Yeah, let's do that. To Kai's point, a little bit behind the scenes too. I try and pick topics both to advertise, but also from a YouTube standpoint. If your videos are searchable, they get, people click on them more in the long run rather than just watching it one time. So I always do the SEO stuff. But yeah, Kai's exactly right. We may or may not get to everything. And if you guys bring up some topic that we find interesting, we might veer off to the right. The good news is I can always update all the SEO and description stuff afterwards. Speaking of description, if you're not subscribed to Kai, which you should be in all places, Instagram, food, Facebook, and here on YouTube, the link is right down below for YouTube. And Kai is like right at, like he could pass 5,000 subscribers like tonight if 21 of you aren't subscribed to him and you clicked him, he'd be right there. So
Yay.
yeah. Hey, so what's the I wouldn't say proper, what's the traditional greeting? Is it congratulations on the new year? Is it just a happy new year, celebrate? What's the traditional kind of greeting for it?
So there's actually two.
Okay.
There's the one that literally translates to Happy New Year, which is well, it depends on what dialect you're speaking. So if I use Mandarin,
Yeah.
it's 新年快乐, which, like I said, literally translates to Happy New Year. But most times when people greet each other at the New Year's, they would actually say 恭喜发财, which literally translates to hope you get rich.
Yeah, that's right. I've heard that. Yeah, it's there's who's the stand-up comic? I think Ronnie Chang. I think Ronnie's. He was from the Daily Show. He has a stand-up bit about this. Yeah, hope you get rich.
Yeah.
Well, I hope we get rich. Man.
It's all about money, I guess. I don't know. So well, that's a good segue, I guess, into sales.
So my sales right now are non-existent because I ran out of inventory, which I'm hoping to improve upon this year. So it's good and bad. What about as far as ball pythons? What about on your end?
I still have inventory. I do this every year, where I hold back stuff, thinking that I might not make something better, So I'll hold it back until the end of the year when everything hatches, and then I'll try to list them on Morph Market. But by then it's usually the holiday season, all the crazy shippings from all the Christmas orders, and then you have the storms. So I have, I think, 30 maybe that are still in my racks that some of them are posted on Morph Market, and then other ones I haven't even posted up yet. But motivated to sell. So for those of you who are watching, hit me up if you want a male. Definitely motivated to sell the males. They sit around for a while. So most of the males are not even like hatchling size anymore. They're like 300 grams.
Oh, so you got them halfway there for people anyway.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Because I don't pick and choose which animals to feed. Like I just feed them all the same because it's just easier that way. And I find that males will typically move faster if they're a little bit larger because people do want to just pick them up and then get them to breeding into the breeding plants as soon as possible.
So when whether right now or in general, what's your best avenue, or where do you usually have the most success of conveying the animals? Obviously, you said they're on Morph Market, but do you utilize any like Instagram listings, or will you do a for sale video kind of thing, or what works best for you?
No, not really. Usually it's like you said, just Morph Market. Once in a while, if I upload a bunch of animals at the same time, I might take a screenshot of Morph Market and just post it on Facebook or Instagram.
Oh, yeah.
But if I'm just putting like one or two animals out there, I usually don't do that. And then in my videos, I do say sometimes, such and such is going to be made available, but it's kind of like under my breath. I don't really like call it out to everybody.
Yeah.
But I saw your video with, what you did in terms of sales. Believe it or not, you and I actually did about the same our first year.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. So
Cool.
so it's funny. I thought I did a good job of keeping record until I tried to make a Excel sheet like the one you had in your video.
Yeah.
And then I realized that I'm missing a lot of data points, like stuff are still in receipts on paper, on Post-it notes. So I'm not completely done. I'm trying to work backwards. So I started with 2021 and then working to 2020, 2019, and so on and so forth. But I looked at, well, my first year is pretty easy because I only had 2 clutches. I think you had 2 clutches too, right?
2 clutches, yeah. Yep.
Yeah. So one of your clutch was like Orange Dream stuff, and then the other one was like Banana Mojave Hypo stuff, right?
Yeah,
And
well, I think it ended up, I think a banana ended at Banana Hat Clown. I actually think the Clown was the father rather than the Mojave. That was the one we were sending pictures back and forth, and that was the one where you were like, man, I thought I saw something, but looking at it now, I don't know what I'm looking at, and that's why I was like, I think it's on Clown. Not John, Mark, 403 Fauna's got one of the babies. Actually, Chuck at Laughing Boy he's got some from the Orange Dream clutch. But they still don't look like Mojave to me. So like I say, I think if they're not Mojave, it has to be the Clown. But yeah, that was the other clutch though.
Okay. So I know when you posted that video, you had listed all your sales, but half of them were like animals that you purchased. So if we exclude those, I think if I try to count it up in my head, it looks like all the hatchlings probably totaled around $2,200, something in that range. In my first year, I think I was around $2,000 for 2 clutches. So we actually did about the same. Now keep in mind, I did a giveaway though, or maybe even 2 of them. So I gave a couple away on my. By the way, don't do giveaways anymore because you don't know who you're giving the animal to.
Ooh, that sounds like there's a story behind that.
No, everything went fine, but I just heard other stories.
Oh yeah,
of other people, and if you guys are subscribed to MJ's channel on Trap Talk, he actually had Wiz Constrictor on, and he said that when he was doing a giveaway, he rigged it so that it would go to somebody that he knew, which is very funny. I mean, it's funny. It's not like I'm bad mouthing the guy or anything, because he himself said that on his own video, and everybody got a good laugh out of it. But yeah. So the point I was trying to make is that you and I made about the same in our first year with 2. We both had 2 clutches, and we both made around $2,000 off of that. What are you looking? What are you projecting for next year, for this 2022 season?
Yeah, I'm looking at as far as revenue or well, it's
just sales. We'll stick with just sales.
I think the sales will be between 18 and 20 is what I'm hoping for this year, but that's going to require 48 snakes. So if So I don't somewhere actually I say 18 to 20. 18 to 20,000 is what I'm really hoping for, but really legitimately it might be anywhere from 9 to 20,000. If I get 4 clutches, I think I'll do 9. If I get 8 clutches, I think I can do 18 to 20. And then of course the odds matter and all of that. And what I end up holding back though too will make a difference as well.
Okay. Okay. I don't necessarily know if I had all the data for my second year. I think right now it's looking like in terms of sales, looks like I made like $4,500. I don't remember how many clutches I produced either. But in 2020, again, not all my data is complete, but it looks like I made, I think 18,000
Yeah.
in 2020. 2021, I made, no, sorry, it's not 18, 14 in 2020 and 30 last year, 2021 in sales.
Nice. So wow, thanks for sharing that as well. So part of my model is the ball python. I got the ball pythons, I got the day job, and then I got this music stuff. And the music stuff pays actually very well and has very little overhead. There's nothing I got to feed. I'm kind of gotten over my guitar addiction, so I'm doing pretty good on that. The flip side is if you put 2 acoustic guitars together, no matter how long you leave them together, they're not going to make a little acoustic guitar for you. So that's just a joke. But
I got it.
Yeah. Thanks. So, and my music kind of caps out because there's only so many days of gigs that I can play. Like you can't scale up past, 7 days a week. Whereas with Snakes, you could scale up, to a much higher level. So the music, I'll probably do like 20 to 24 this year. And then the Snakes, if I can do 18 or 20 this year, I wouldn't be in quit my job territory, but I'd be in, maybe consider something less demanding. If I really, it would come down to benefits, to tell you the truth. And if I could keep the trajectory on the Snakes going, where in 3, 4, 5 years, I was looking at, even doubling that up once more.
It looks like the trajectory is exponential. That's what it looks like. Because I think I produced like 22 clutches in 2020.
Yeah.
And like I said, the sales was $14,000. And then 28 clutches last year, and it's $30,000 in sales. This year, I have like 60 breeder size females.
60?
Cool. 60.
60.
Yeah.
Ooh, yeah.
I know, right? I didn't even realize that until I started to like write out the plans and the pairings and things like that. And it turns out like there's about 58 that are definitely breeder size. Some of them are proven. Like half of them are proven, and then maybe like 5 or 8 of them are like at the cusp of breeding size. So I'm not sure if they're going to make it or not. I'll just have to keep feeding and see how things go. But yeah, it's like, I think 58 are definitely breeding size. I don't know if they're going to go or not. We don't know until, they go.
Yeah. So on the ones that are close to breeding size, how late in the year will you pair them up? Or will you just pair them once they, you just got, like, doesn't matter. You'll just pair all through the year.
I typically, so if they're like beyond November, if we get to like October, November timeframe, and I don't see much momentum in them, I try to just hold off and try to get them sooner on the following year. Because what I find is the males tend to get a little bit either lazy or they might be shooting blanks for the end of the year.
Yeah.
And so you end up with just like slugs and infertility and things like that. So
you'll pair all the way through the fall.
Yeah, I'll pair all the way through the fall. I mean, the last one that you guys saw on my channel, the Exantic Desert Ghost one, that was a late clutch, and they all hatched. So
Yeah.
Sometimes they all hatch, but what I find is just from the previous years, towards the end, you start getting less eggs and more slugs.
See, I'm still trying. I don't have enough volume to really probably make a difference. But so I had started pairing mine in like late September, early October with the mindset that I would probably pair through March or April. And by that point, if I don't see, you know, if I didn't see much action, then let it wait and see. And I mean, I know they can hold sperm for a while too, but maybe I'll just go until they do something.
Yeah, I mean, like my first two clutches that I ever produced, they were like November, December is when they were laid. So they were late in the year. But also keep in mind, it was like one male to one female. So I was pretty much putting the male with the female every single week. Yeah. Whereas now, if you have like the way, you know, most breeders do it is they have one powerhouse male that they keep cycling through all their females. And he might not make it all the way through if you keep doing that. Right. And plus you're putting one male to like within a given 30-day period or so, you're putting one male to 4 females. So the female's only seeing them once a month. So like I said, you can pair the male with the female and you still get high success if maybe you do it in such a way where the male visits the female more frequently. But if you're doing it like only once a month, then the male might get a little bit tired or lazy.
Yeah.
Towards the end of the year.
Yeah, so we'll have to see how mine goes because I've got one male that does what you're describing, goes through 4 females once a week on a monthly rotation. But then my other 4 pairings are just 1-to-1, and I've been doing those every other week. You know, breed, give them a week off, breed, week off, breed, week off. And really it's 2 weeks off. It's a Wednesday is when I pair. I leave them for 72 hours, pull them apart. Unless they're actually actively locked, then I'll let them be for a little bit as well. Do you use ultrasound in your operation or not?
No. I probably should get one. I'm thinking like, we'll see how this season goes with 60 females. If I can keep track of them, give them enough attention where I can observe them and know where they are in that breeding cycle, I might not need an ultrasound. But you know, if I start seeing where, you know, I miss my opportunity putting the male in, then maybe next year I will get the ultrasound.
How, when we say miss that opportunity, how big do you think that window is? I mean, are we talking days, weeks? I mean, I'm feeling like it's got to be like a few weeks that you would.
Yeah, it's a few weeks. It's a few weeks. So usually the female will stop eating. Like if you catch the female stop eating, they're probably around the 20 millimeter size. I'm talking about the follicle size.
Yeah.
And so if you can catch them between 20 and 35, which is roughly 6 weeks long, that's the window, right? So if you could catch them at 20 and then catch them again at 30, then you basically, the second one is like more of a security or guarantee, right? That the male did the deed. But sometimes you miss the window. What I mean is like you're putting one male to 4 different females, right? And so maybe at a certain period when you want to put the male with the female, she's in shed and she doesn't want to breed, or he's in shed and he doesn't want to breed. So you might skip that week. And if you skip too many, then you've missed that opportunity. So that's what I mean by like, I have to pay more attention to the females, make sure I have time to observe each one of them, and keep track of which male went to which female, and try to spread things out so that I don't tire out the male, because that's like, that's the MVP, you know? So
yeah, don't wear them out, right? Yeah. Hey, we got to take a break for just a second. Leviathan Snakes, congratulations, Stephen and Courtney. They said they're joining from the hospital with their new baby girl. So many blessings to you all. I trust everybody's healthy. I hope mom and baby are healthy, and I hope that you all are getting just some amazing family time together. You've been incredibly supportive to me, literally from day one. Stephen and Courtney are who did the test broadcast dress rehearsal before this show ever actually officially went on the air, which that episode is, you can go back and watch. So y'all are very special to me. I wish you the very, very best. I hope that, again, I hope everybody is well and healthy. And what a wonderful announcement to kick off the show with. Cheers, guys. Phil says, knows the straight way to my heart. He says, this is for your YouTube ROI. Thanks for the great show every week. Phil, I really appreciate it. And I hope you know, I think a lot of Phil. Guys, if you don't watch his Instagram, you need to. He's got amazing stuff going on, and he's really insightful, and you've always been likewise supportive of me. So thank you very much. The $5 doesn't go unnoticed or unappreciated. So one of the topics that, not to switch things up, was the topic of rats, and I have zero intention of breeding rats. I was at Jeremy Baud's facility on Sunday, matter of fact, which is killer, guys. Jeremy, I think you're in the audience still. Thank you so much to you and Jeannie for hosting me. I realized that not only do I have a general dislike of rats, I have an incredible allergic reaction to the rats, and his rat room is impeccable. It's gorgeous. It's fully ventilated. There's a solar fan. There's an electric fan. No problem, man. I had to cut off the camera when I was filming, and I was like, guys, I'm out of here. I gotta go. Like I felt like cats were sitting on my face. So my YouTube revenue is my number one goal for my YouTube revenue is to make enough money to pay for all my frozen rats per year with YouTube revenue. And so that's what I'm working on. So, Phil, that's what that will go towards. So thank you very much for the, what do they call it? The power chat, the super chat, whatever it might be. So, so sorry for the, to interrupt. That was big news from Steven, and very kind of Phil. Thank you, Phil, on that. So where were we, Kai? We were talking about sales and the volume that we were looking at doing. And so, oh yeah, and the window with the ultrasound and the sizes. So back to your 60. You said 60 females. How many males are you working with? I mean, you said it sounds like you like to work with almost 1-to-1 if possible.
First of all, I can't get over the fact that you said there's cats sitting on your face, but
yeah, there's all sorts of jokes there. Let's keep this PG-13. Yeah, please.
Some people like it, some people don't.
Well, it's only for my brand. I claim to be the family hobby, the family business. So off air, yes, we'll get suburban and make some cat jokes.
So how many males do I have? I don't know, maybe like a dozen that are intended to be breeding this year. But I think I have like 20, 24 males because it's important to have backups. So I have two really important backup males. One of them is the Super Pastel Hypo Clown, and then the other one is the Super Orange Dream Possible Leopard Pied. And I'm using them as backup because they're supers, right? So if the female doesn't have pastel, then I can put the killer clown hypo, and anything that pops out with pastel, I'll know that it was sired by the backup male.
Yeah, you gotta know who's your daddy's in there, right?
Right. And then if they don't have pastel, then I know then they were sired by the primary male. And my MVP this coming season, 2022, is my Sunset. So I'm trying to make a lot of double hets, Sunset with Pied, Sunset with Candy, with Desert Ghost, with Hypo, not Clown, but trying to make some double hets. Same thing with the Orange Dream. So if the female doesn't have Orange Dream, if she has pastel, then obviously I have no choice to put the Super Orange Dream, because again, if they come out Orange Dream, I know that it was sired by the backup,
right?
And not the Sunset. So problem is those two backup males that were like studs last year have decided to call it quits.
Oh no.
So yeah. So they're not doing that well. They're not just breeding anything like I was hoping that they would do. I'm pretty much doing kind of like what you said earlier, is giving them 2 weeks off instead of 1 week off.
Yeah.
And so now they're not playing that backup role anymore. They're just breeding the girls that they're intended to breed. And they both have like maybe 2 or 3 females that they're intended to go to. So I don't want to use them backup and tire them out. But one of the things I wanted to mention was this kind of ties the sales and the breeding topics together. Last year I could have just bought like a powerhouse male and just run it to all like 28 of my females and not really care if I'm pushing any one of my projects forward, but just breed them so that I have like very expensive hatchlings to sell,
Right.
So you have, on one end, you have like the pure hobbyist who's like, just follow your passion and don't worry about the money. Just it's the journey. It's all about the journey. And then on the other side, you have the little business person who's like, it's all about sales and profits and revenue, right?
Yeah.
So last year I listened to my hobby person who's sitting on this shoulder, and like having the business person say, you're insane, you're an idiot, what are you doing? But I think this year, the way my breeding plans line up, it's also merging the two thoughts together. So the hobbyist is like, push forward with the projects that you really want to work with, which is Sunset and, combining Sunset with other recessives. And then the business person is happy now because, Sunset double recessives are going to sell well, I think.
Yes.
So I kind of feel like this is going to be a good year for me. And I just hope that other people like kind of have, can kind of mold their project in a similar way so that they can see a good return on their investment.
Yeah, I'm glad you brought that up. I actually, I don't know, it was last night. All right, so a really funny thing is like when I'm like stressed and too much going on in my head and I can't get to sleep, I actually like almost meditate on my snakes. They calm me down. I think about like I pretend I can make one female have 10 babies. So I
have the opposite effect when I meditate on my female. I'm like, I get stressed out. It's like, oh my God, like I don't have enough females to go around. I want to make this, I want to make that. I only have one female. Which male do I put to the female? Which project should I push forward? Which one should I hold back until next year? So I get stressed out when I think about that. What calms me down is if I go down and just look at the animals. That calms me down.
No, it's one of those things I can think about and push other things out of my mind. So Jeremy says he puts cats on his face when he can't sleep. I see this is going to be a long term. It's going to be a great episode when we all break out the beverages and I invite everybody back. I know this will be one of the greatest hit shows. Okay. But to your point, Kai, of what you just brought up, yeah, there's some stress that goes with chasing what you're excited about and what you've been working at for so long. And then the realities of this is an expensive hobby. And whether you want to make it a business or just sustain yourself in the hobby, it can get very, very expensive. So it can get very expensive. And Kai, the way you said that your business and a hobby part of it line up actually sort of coincides with what works for me. Like I really enjoy recessives. I talked about on the show before. I really don't have a whole lot of co-dominance. So for me, building those double hets, trying to add, like you say, get X, Y, and Z into Candy or X, Y, and Z into Xanthic and whatnot. That's kind of the path I'm on. So I'm with you. I hope that lines up to a good season of revenue and a good season of being able to continue this dream and this journey and that kind of thing.
Yeah, I think you're doing really well because from what I remember, you were looking for triple hets, right? And you ended up purchasing
I got some.
A pair of triple hets. So that was a really good move, I think. If there's animals out there already on the market that you can purchase, just buy them. Because if you try to make your own, you're gonna possibly miss what you want, right? You could get a clutch of all males like I did 2 years in a row.
Yeah.
So I learned from my mistake. I'm not if they already exist in the market, or if I think I can buy it, I'm just gonna wait and buy it. If I don't think I have a good chance of ever buying one, or I don't think they're gonna be available, then that's when I'll consider making it. So like I said, I don't think there's gonna be many double het sunset desert ghosts. Yeah, I know people are making it, but it's gonna be tough to buy one. Right,
It's gonna be very tough to buy. Yeah,
exactly. So that's why I'm making my own.
One, yeah.
And that's why I said I'm not doing Sunset Clown, because I think 2, maybe even 3 years ago, somebody already made the double visual, and I think Miguel has been breeding Sunset Clown projects for a while. So he's got like Clown Het Sunset, Sunset Het Clown. So I think, next year, if I really wanted to work that project, I could probably pick one up. But the other ones, and the pieds too. I'm sure I can pick up the sunset pieds, but I have a lot of pied females, and I don't know what direction I really want to take my pieds in. So I think next year, not next year, this year, also because the Super Orange Dream pied male has decided to semi-retire. So I think this year I'm just gonna use some of those visual pied females that have some codoms in there and make my own double hets, because the double het sunset pied females you see on Morph Market, they're just normals,
right?
So I don't want to just hold a bunch of normals. So if I can make like the yellow belly double hets, Orange Dream double het, Enchi double het,
those seem to, I mean, just not specific to that combination of double hets, but the price value from just a male or even a female double het versus an Enchi double het, or versus an Enchi, not so much pastel, but I don't know, a variety of others. But it just, I mean, even banana, I see just go, I mean, I'd have to cite some specific examples, but that did sort of inspire me to be like, I should have some codoms to throw into the mix. If I'm going to be breeding them anyhow, I may as well get the the double and the triple hets, or aim for some double visuals with
codoms. Yeah
and really like base, not necessarily hot genes, but like the base genes that everybody is always going to use. Your leopard, your Enchi. I think pastel's always around. I love Orange Dream as well. So like I'm thinking like that, where I'm going for any projects in the future to other breeders, those would be useful. If you could have a double het with Orange Dream or Enchi or Leopard, you're probably going to find a home for that in one of your projects somewhere, if you're working with those hets, is kind of my thought.
Yeah. And if you have, let's say you have one codom as a double het, like an Enchi double het for whatever, you're going to be able to make cooler animals much faster than if somebody started with a normal double het, right? Because if you have an Enchi double het and you have a male that's maybe yellow belly or Orange Dream double het, you put them together, now you have 2 codoms in the mix. Even if you don't hit on a 2-banger, you can still hold back something. But my point is, eventually you can make Enchi Orange Dream double visuals, Super Enchi Orange Dream double visuals, Enchi Super Orange Dream double visuals, Super Enchi Super Orange Dream double visuals. But if you start with a normal, then your path to making animals that are like vibrant orange is going to take much longer.
Yeah. And when we say longer, we're talking magnitudes of years. You get one shot a year at improving anything. So
not even one, right? Because if you think about it, I think you and I are about the same age, 41.
Yeah.
42. Yeah.
I'm 41 for another 10 days. Matter of fact, that's sneaking up on me too.
Oh, so congratulations or happy birthday.
It dawned on me when I was driving. I was like, I'm about to be okay. Yeah.
So like if you think about it, let's say you're going to breed until 60, right? That's between now and 60 is like 20 years. You don't really have 20 seasons of breeding that project, because if you get the genes that you want in a female, you're basically waiting another year, right?
Oh
Or if you
yeah.
have a male that doesn't want to breed for you, then you're waiting another year. So you don't have 20 seasons of breeding that project. You might have only like 7 seasons if you get unlucky, and every time you get the animal that you want and it ends up to be a female, you're basically cutting your time span down by a third.
Yeah. Yeah. I did a video where I mapped all that out. Like if you nailed everything perfect, like, okay, I got this and now it's a female and I have to breed this. I broke it out on the whiteboard and sped it up over time lapse or whatever. It was actually an exercise in time lapse photography is what it was, but I had some fun with it. But yeah, it's a stupid amount of years to get to some really big things, which goes back to your point. If you could buy it and it's on the market, buy it and just skip forward and then figure out the angle of how you're going to earn your money back. Or if you're just a hobbyist, then enjoy your money and enjoy your purchase, you know?
I think if you buy it and it's a good investment, you're going to earn your money back at much faster rate too than trying to make your own. Like if we talk about my Xanthic pie project, right? Like
Yeah,
I was
that's
fixated.
what I was thinking of one of the things. Yeah, talk about that.
I was fixated on using the Xanthic line that I got from Ozzy, because it was just like really, really silver. And all the other Xanthics, like a lot of the other Xanthics that I saw and purchased, they turned out like yellowing out. And I didn't want to use that Xanthic line, because I'm thinking like if I'm going to spend that time breeding, I want to breed for like the most silver, the most black and white animals. So, but if I decided the year that female got to size, if I had a breeder size Firefly Xanthic, if I saw one on the market that was not yellowing out and I bought it, then I probably, even if that animal was like, I don't know how much it costs. How much is a Firefly Xanthic pie? Like $4,000, $5,000, something like that.
Yeah, I would think so. Yeah.
So even if it was like $6,000, I think if I bred it to my female and half of them were Xanthic pies, without pastel, without fire in them, just half of them being Xanthic pies, they're worth like $3,000 each.
Yeah, you're gonna get 3 and change on those. Yeah.
Right. And especially that was like 4 years ago. So I think asking 3,000 is reasonable. I think they're a little bit lower now. But
Yeah.
like that example, I mean, you're if you invested more, you're gonna see a greater return. Whereas if you did it my way, which was like the hobbyist way of just taking the journey,
Right.
which is what I did. It's been 4 years, 4 seasons, and I've only now produced Xanthic pies, pastel Xanthic pies, and I don't even have fire in there because I lost fire through that process because it
Yeah.
never landed on a pied. It never landed on a visual pied. I had like fire posset pies, but I didn't want to use those.
So one thing we should say, or I'll say, you might have a different opinion. Don't just listen to Kai and hear, well, you know, I'm going to go drop $6,000 and everything's going to be amazing. Like there's so many things that could go wrong along the way. Like that you're hearing from somebody very experienced in Kai talking about this. And this is when things go right. But then there's all the stories of, like you said, you got all males, or like one of my clutches last year. I was so defeated last year when I cut the that second clutch and there were 0 pieds. Mainly Morph was asking earlier, did I ever buy a het that as a het that didn't prove out? I've got something from last year. One of them is not proving out yet. They could both be het, and I could have just missed on 7 eggs. But there's not always just going to be that $3,000-$4,000 snake sitting there for you either. So be careful, guys, especially if you're buying these things on credit and diving deep that way. That is, I'm just one man, but that's not my style. Not what I recommend. That's all.
A disclaimer.
Yeah, there's a disclaimer.
Disclaimer.
Hey,
Yeah, I mean, it's totally possible you invest in a $5,000 animal and it dies because they're animals. But sometimes it's like you have to take the risk, and I understand, like, 5,000 might be a lot for some people. I remember just a couple years ago, like, I would never spend $5,000 on a snake.
right, right. Yeah, and there's a lot. I actually had one of those moments today. I had recently sold my house, and if after you sell a house, whatever's left on the escrow account for a mortgage gets reimbursed to you. So I got a check for $2,000, and I remember being like, man, if I was in college and a $2,000 check landed in my hands, like I would be booking a trip to Cancun immediately. I would be gone. Like I'd be on a beach in Mexico because I would feel like the richest man in the world with that check in my hand. So there are things that are relative. And to your point, right now, 5,000 on a snake ain't happening for me.
Yeah,
It's just not in the cards. In 3 years, yeah, I hope so. But I got to have that personal proof of concept. I got to have that personal responsibility that I know what I'm doing, that I'm not going to sink the ship, that I'm not going to, dive into family finances and jeopardize anything. So yeah, it's not there yet. How about, speaking of money and what you spend, or not specifically what you spend, what you choose to spend on, I think you do most of your facility and equipment DIY when you can. Is that right?
Yeah. I mean, I started with like a really small space, and when I started, it wasn't just dedicated to snakes. I was just trying to leverage the space next to my aquarium.
Yeah.
I had like this huge, I mean, I call it huge. It's a 75-gallon aquarium,
Big aquarium,
which took up, and my space, I think at the time, was like 7 feet by 4.5 or 5 feet, something like that. And that aquarium took up like one whole side of it already.
Yeah,
right?
75 is what? It's a 4 foot
4
by
feet.
18 deep and then 2 feet high. Yeah.
Yeah, something along those lines. Definitely, the footprint is. You're right on the footprint. I don't know how high it is.
Yeah.
But yeah, like I said, I was just trying to put something together on the side, not to take up too much space. So I really didn't have a choice. So I just built it, and then me being me and having that slight OCD in me, I wanted everything to look the same. So I kind of like, oh, now I'm stuck building everything because everything needs to be white. I don't want metal, plastic, wood, So.
Yeah. I was laughing because I'll tell the story. I'll share with you all as well. I just finished a DIY area of my own, but I texted Kai a picture along the way, and he was like, it wasn't, well, maybe he said it looks great. But after he said it looks great, it wasn't like, man, that's cool, or I got to look into that. He was like, is that sink longer than the wall and you're just going to leave it like that? And I was like, yeah, I don't have a torch. So I'm not cutting the sink off and I'm not extending the wall. And then then about 5 minutes later, he sends a picture back to me that's been cropped, and he cropped off the edge of the sink.
It was bothering me. I couldn't help it.
No, I put up some tile backsplashes, and it's stick-on tile, and I realized that I hate those things. I don't recommend the stick-on floor tiles for your backsplash. So then I had to use glue, and then I was fighting gravity, and there's some lines that aren't straight, and I was like, I'm going to send a picture of this to Kai, and I didn't, but I will now that I told you about it.
Don't do it at night, because then I won't be able to sleep.
Okay, no. But so on your so your racks, you use your own all DIY exclusively, or have you changed your tone and bought some of the professional racks ever?
No, at this point, there's no space for a professional rack anymore. I don't have enough wall space. Like I can't do ARS or Freedom Breeder because they just come in like these. They're huge.
Right. But would it be more efficient to like take out your racks, or did you nail the efficiency of space on your racks?
I took the footprint, the floor, and the wall space and maximized it.
Okay. See, my 2 racks, actually my 3 racks, 1 hatchling and 2 of my other racks. For my adults, I lose about 6 inches of space horizontally and about 1 inch of space because I use the locking tops instead of just the shelf lid for them, you know?
Yeah.
So I actually lose spatial efficiency on mine when I'm housing adults. Now, grow out, I got it perfect for the 3 tub grow out size. So I can have 3 grow outs or 2 adults on each level. But when I have 2 adults, I'm missing. And vertically, like I say, I'm losing about 2 inches per level in the rack. So I'm thinking that maybe I should just sell them and abandon them at some point and switch to like an ARS rack that just maximizes every bit of space.
Yeah, I mean, I would say if you're okay with selling them, if there's like little things in there that annoy you, I mean, I don't know how many years it's gonna take, but you could technically abandon it and just. So for me, you saw in my videos, I make the 8 tall for the 28 core tubs. Make it 8 tall, so they're like one single column with 8 tubs. And when I measured out my floor plan, I was thinking like, hey, I want 4 of those racks side by side. And the initial thought was just to make 4 of them. But when I measured it out, if I put them side by side, it eats about 1 inch into the door frame. Yeah. So this is my OCD kicking in again. So it eats 1 inch into the door frame. So I hate that. I don't want to see that.
Yeah.
So what I decided to do was, instead of building single columns, I would merge 2 of them together. So instead of building a 1x8, I'm building 2x8.
Yes.
And therefore, each one of the racks, I'm saving a 1/2 inch.
Yeah.
So 1/2 inch on a 2x8, another 1/2 inch saving on 2x8. That saves 1 inch, which gets me just clear of that door frame.
Inside the door frame. Yeah. I know I've told the story before for those of y'all that are actually, and there's 36, we got above 40 people. I think that's the first time I've ever been above 40 people watching. So thank y'all out there. If you haven't commented or chatted or subscribed and all that good stuff, but thank you all for being here. First and foremost. Yeah. When I first started doing my research in this hobby, I stumbled across Kai's DIY rack videos, which is where really I got the idea. I was like, I don't have $1,000 or $1,500 to go buy a rack, but I got some money I can go buy some PVC with, and I'm going to make this thing and I'm going to figure it out. And I think you were also soldering, which I did soldering for guitar repair. And I was like, I could solder heat strips, boom, boom, boom. And that's actually still what I use now. But I remember you were pre-drilling your holes in PVC. And I remember going, this guy likes things in an orderly fashion, and he is going to be producing quality because of the order that he instills in his life. And that really, I was like, I'm going to meet this guy. And I started following you. And that really was where I sort of led me to get in touch with you in the first place. But yeah, pre-drilled holes in the PVC, which is really a pretty forgiving material. Like it's not going to split or crack. You know that, right?
Yeah, it doesn't split, and you don't have to worry about lining up the wood grains or anything like that.
That's generally why you would pre-drill holes, to prevent splitting and cracking, though.
Yeah. Well, the thing with the PVC is that it would slip, right? Yeah. It would slip when I'm going in because it's plastic, and plastic, it just doesn't have that friction like wood does. Yeah. So if I'm trying to drill in, the screw, the what do you call the threads, is going to try to, the initial contact is going to try to move that piece of material, wiggle it a little bit. But if you're pre-drilling, then the blaze on the drill actually cuts through it without wiggling the material. Yeah. And then you can put the screw away and without worry that it's gonna shift out of place.
This is the stuff I love. This is it right here. This is Kyle. No, I use, I'll joke aside, you do have to watch it though. So I use 90-degree angle clamps that I've used for building like amplifier cabinets, because you do want it to be square. And then I actually build my racks I build as two components. So I build like almost like if you were to imagine two skinny bookshelves,
Yeah.
but I offset the back by about 1/8 of an inch lower so that I don't have to route out space for my heat strip. Yeah, so Adam's got tricks too. Yeah. So and then I the first ones I glued together, and because of the surface tension of the glue and the sheer weight of the PVC, they actually shifted, so it wasn't beautiful. It would drive you crazy. But then I also realized and I put them on wheels, but I realized I didn't have handles. So on my second and my third rack, what I actually attached the front and the back bookshelf with is a strip of spare cuttings from the PVC when I was trimming it. And they double as handles as well as securing the two pieces together. But yeah, a little trick is just offsetting that back shelf by, like I say, about 1/8. I use index cards. I use like 3 or 4 index cards on the initial spacer, and then use the same spacer after that.
Oh, nice. That's a good idea.
So that's the heat strip hack on the back there. So you're not banging up your heat strips every time when you pull them in and out. Because I didn't want to routing PVC seemed like worse than cat.
It's a mess. It's a mess. Even cutting it, it's not like sawdust where it just falls. Right. No, PVC is plastic. There's so much static. It's like it sticks on my shirt, sticks on my goggles that I'm wearing, then I can't see, and then I'm smearing stuff on my face. It is a little bit messier.
If you're cutting in your garage or your driveway, you can't just sweep it out into the street. I mean, people can.
Yeah, most of it gets stuck on the broom.
Ideally you're sweeping it up and throwing it out, because you don't want your PVC all over your neighborhood or your yard or whatever.
Yeah, that's why I cut it in Home Depot's parking lot. You probably saw one of my videos. Yeah, I do. So usually I can get my pieces cut to close to the dimensions I want by the employees at Home Depot, because they got that big machine that can cut it.
Yeah.
I don't think every Home Depot does it. I've heard from other people that some Home Depots refuse to cut PVC just because.
They've always turned me down here. Like, I got to show up with like an extra 20 to slip to the kit. Like you got to find the right kit, I feel like. Be like, dude,
well, take care of this. What you have to do is basically downplay it and just say, hey, I just need a couple cuts so I can fit it into my car.
Yeah.
But once they have the board on the machine, then be like, okay, cut it here and here and here and here and here. But my Home Depot is good. Like they don't care how many cuts I want to make, as long as they're not too busy and there's not too big of a line of people lined up to cut stuff as well. They'll sit there and they'll meticulously cut everything perfectly. Yeah. So they did that for me. But at the peak of COVID, and this is like before the vaccines, before any vaccines, this is like the peak where everybody's like, what the hell do we do? Right. They shut those machines down. And they didn't let the employees cut it just because, they don't want everybody touching the same thing.
Yeah, you didn't know what you could touch. You didn't know what you could handle a person. Remember, we weren't supposed to touch our faces. And
yeah, exactly. So when I made my DIY video of my rack, at that point, I basically brought my cordless circular saw. I used one of those carts that are like flat. You know what I'm talking about? Yeah. There's two layers of flat. So I took the cart, put the PVC on that, paid for it, went into their parking lot. I think I either bought 2x4s or I brought my own spare pieces of 2x4 so I could put underneath the PVC. That way my blade doesn't cut into their cart.
Yeah.
And I basically used that as my table and just basically ripped all my pieces, put them in my trunk, and then drove home. So I didn't have to clean up anything. And sorry, Home Depot.
Do you use the sheets or do you buy the planks?
I use the sheets.
See, I use the planks on mine.
I know. You use the 3/4 inch planks too, right?
I do, but I'm thinking of starting to mix just from a sheer cost standpoint. I'm thinking of trying to mix. Like, I feel like the vertical strength of the 1/2 inch would probably be okay. I've noticed on the horizontal, even with my adults, I'm starting to get a little bit of a sag. And I build mine so that I can have 3 grow out tubs or 2 adult tubs. So I can't
Yeah.
put a middle spacer support in between to watch the sag. So
Yeah.
I think horizontal. What's that?
But you also said you're using the strips. So when they're thinner, there's more tendency for them to sag because of how thin they are. And I get the
Yeah.
same thing. If I'm building a hatchling rack where the horizontal pieces are only 14 inches deep, so they're only 14 inches wide, I have to put the supports in the middle. But the other ones, like the 2x8s I was talking about for the 28 core tubs, they're actually pretty rigid. I find that I probably could have gotten away with not putting the supports in the middle, but really the supports are just scrap anyway, and it only takes like a few minutes to put them in and glue them in. They're not even nailed or anything like that.
Yeah.
So I did them anyway, and that does add some rigidity to it. But the wider and longer, sorry, not longer, but the wider the piece, the more rigidity it is. So even if you're using planks and you put them side by side, you still don't get that stiffness because it never was a whole piece.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. Yeah. The other thing I found, my second rack I got better at, and where I was saying that I was losing like an inch or an inch and a half or two above each tub, I really brought that down to where the tubs actually provide the support, so I don't get as much sag that way either. So better, constant improvement mentality, that kind of thing. But speaking of DIY, I have I finished my sink project. And those of y'all that haven't watched the show before, you're probably like, what is this guy talking about? I have a commercial industrial sink that I love. I'm proud of. It reminds me of the restaurants that I used to run. It's from one of my restaurants. And I got it installed finally. It's up and running. It's fully functional. And I've got a video coming out about that. But also in the video is doing a backsplash for cheap. I've got good LVP floor. I'm pointing at it like y'all can see it. LVP floors under it that I put in for dirt cheap. Actually, I got the sink pretty dirt cheap as well. So I jump into all that. That'll come out either this week or next week. It's either going to be the sink this week and then Jeremy's facility next week, or Jeremy's facility this week and the sink next week. But that's coming up if you're into DIY snake setups. Plus, I love, it's got a spray. Man, having a place to efficiently clean is so fantastic. Highly recommended. Get yourself one.
I'm happy for you, man.
Thank you. I'm
happy the plumber finally came out, huh? How long did it take to schedule the plumber?
You know what? It was just on me.
Oh, really? So it's all your fault.
Yeah, well, I wasn't ready, and yeah,
okay.
I kind of was. Yeah, I wasn't quite there, and then I did some things backwards. Like my garage has these walls that are on this wall I painted, but otherwise all the other walls are unfinished in here. And of course, I jumped the gun thinking I'm not going to care. And I put up the backsplash. And now I'm like, I should have painted that wall. Like I did some things out of order. The mini split that I hung is on that same wall. So I got to paint around the mini split, paint around the backsplash, paint around the sink. And I'm like, you'll see it in the video. It ain't done.
Okay.
It's not correct.
Okay.
But
I thought you were running into like scheduling problems, like just getting a plumber out, because I know I have that here. If I need somebody to come out and do something at one of my properties, it just like takes forever, and then you end up like hounding them, like, are you coming, because I have to be there, like it's not like it's my house where I can just sit around all day and eat chips and just wait for the guy. Like this is somebody at a different house that I'm driving over to and waiting there with the keys so I can let the guy in. Yeah, it's kind of annoying that way.
No, I got to say they were really good. There's a lot of, excuse me. I live in like sprawling suburbia that's in the midst of its sprawl right now. So there's a ton of construction and developers that are around. And I just got some references and called a couple of them for quotes, and they were about the same price on the quote. But one of them was like, I could be there tomorrow morning. And I was like, check the references. I was like, all right, get here, let's go. And then, but it was like, he was here like 6-7 hours bringing that water. I was like, maybe that's a bigger job than I thought it was. I didn't think it was that big of a job, but I don't know. He might not have been a fast plumber. I don't know, but he did a good job. It works. It's been dry for, a week now. So it's good.
Okay, cool. If you're, I know you're probably beyond electrical at this point, but for anybody who's, I guess, remodeling or building their own snake room, one tip with electrical is don't put your outlets on your walls. Put your outlets in the ceiling, right? Because you want that wall space. And if you need to do something, you don't want to pull out your rack to get to the outlet.
Yeah.
So if you put them in the ceiling, you'll always have access to them.
Jeremy, I don't know if you've seen Jeremy Warfel's WAR.
Yeah, don't call him out. I know what he did. Don't call him out. He put them on the walls. That's fine. It works.
Yeah, but he's got like 42 of them, man. He ain't moving racks. He's just got one right over there. And he's got 2 levels. He's got one like here.
Yeah.
And then he's got a level up here. It's great, man.
Yeah, that's planning as well. That's planning.
Yeah. But I'm looking up right now. Actually, one of the main outlet circuits that I use is on my ceiling. I won't bore everybody with it, but actually I talked about that in that video as well. All my lighting I pulled the power for all my lighting from there, and IKEA sells these great just lamp sockets, but they're on like 40-foot cords. So you can hang them all over the room. In a place that doesn't normally have lights, you can just hang those around. That's actually how I light my whole garage. Yeah,
I remember you did a video.
Okay, maybe it wasn't then.
Yeah. Mine is I think every 2 outlets or every 2 pairs of receptacles ties to 1 circuit, and in the service panel.
See, that's smart.
So the room actually goes to 4 different breakers.
I'm fighting with my break. I'm actually gonna have to pay an electrician to come add a couple, like at least 2 more circuits between my fridge, my mini split, my music, my office, and my snakes. I'm pulling all that off of only 2 circuits. Now, one of them's a 20 amp, which is nice. I mean, that's moving some electricity, but the other one's only a 15 amp.
If they're outlets, they should be 20s. Are they outlets or are they like lights and switches?
No, they're outlets.
They're outlets?
Yeah.
I think now, I mean, maybe it's a different, you might have different code in your area, but for us, outlets are all on 20 amps, and lights and such, they're on 15s.
No, I'm curious now. It's right there. I'm going to look really quick. I'll be right back. Hang on.
Okay, great.
No, I'm here. No, the big boy outlets in my house are like the living room's on a 15. The big ones, the heavy duty ones, like the kitchen, the bathroom, and one of the outlet and one of the circuits here in the garage are 20. Everything else is 15. The bedrooms, the living room is 15.
Okay. I'm gonna also err on the side of Phil Snyder, and he said outlets can be 15 amps.
Actually, yeah, and Tradesman works here in Jacksonville. Tradesman, am I wrong? Am I thinking crazy, at least for our local codes? Because I got 20 and 15 amp circuits, but I believe my living room and bedrooms are on 15 amps. Each wall for me is on a 20. It's Florida, probably 15, but should be 20. Yeah, okay. That's, yeah. Me and Tradesman, he and I.
It's possible you're just grandfathered in, too, because I don't know how old your house is.
Well, I mean,
but back then, I don't think anybody gave a crap, because I did some flips in the past, and there were receptacles with the ground hole in it, but when you open it, there's only a hot and a neutral. So
right, yeah, I was going to say, and it doesn't even matter. I worked my very first job was working as an electrician, so I mean, I know enough to really kind of hurt myself, so to speak. But yeah, I mean, I could see in my house, I did piecework as a kid for an electrician, and if my screws weren't straight up and down on the socket plates, I didn't get paid my money for that outlet kind of thing. And then, like you say, if when you install the wire around the screw on the side, if my wire didn't curve in the same direction that the screw turned, I didn't get my money for that outlet either, kind of thing. So Yeah, Phil says an older house is 14.3. Yeah, see, that's what I always remembered was the 14 gauge went to a 15 breaker, and then the 12 gauge goes to a 20. And all the wire that I ran for my Snake Room, I used the 12 gauge on, but you're only as good as your weakest link. So if it's coming off a 15 amp circuit, it doesn't matter if you're using 12 or not. Yeah, 12.3 can handle 20.
Yeah, yeah. And Jeremy said all of each wall, I think that's what he's saying, that each wall is on its own breaker and they're 20 amps.
Nice. Yeah.
All right, we're going to turn everyone into an electrician today.
That's right. We're all going to, yeah. Jeremy says he's kicking 100 amp service in the room too. Jeez.
Jeremy, do you have backup? I don't know if he has backup. Might be good to look into backup.
Generator, you mean?
Yeah.
Yeah, actually, I do have a generator, and I've got like for me, I know that you asked Jeremy, but as far as filling in some time here, I'm looking up top. I've got some storage that hangs up from my ceiling, and I've got a generator kit in a tub. So I have my generator, and if the power goes, I know right where all my cords are. I know, they're all bundled nicely, and I can get plugged in and ready to go right away. So I learned that living in the mountains in North Carolina.
Nice. I have a generator, one of those like portable ones on a wheel. It's got like, I think it has like 8,000 written on the side. So I don't really know what the size it is, but it's got 8,000 on it. So I imagine it's pretty powerful.
Watts, yeah.
Yeah. I've only had to use it once, but ever since I used it, it was such a pain in the ass because I would have to drag extension cords through a window into the house to power up my refrigerators and freezers and my fish tanks at the time. So what I end up doing is getting something, I think it's called a transfer switch box, something like that. So it sits right next to, you can have it sit right next to your service panel. So basically all the power from your service panel first goes through your transfer switch box, then to all your outlets and receptacles and whatever appliances that you have. And then that transfer switch box, you can either have it line, which is just like, it just lets the power go through from your utility company to whatever is in your house. Or you can flick it so that it gets power from your generator, which my generator, I just have to pull it out of my garage, fill up with gas, turn it on, and then on the generator has a different plug. It's like this huge plug. I think it's on 10.2 or 10.3 wire, and then I can plug that into the transfer box. And then everything that's in my house that's also hooked up to the transfer switch box, those get powered on. So it's only like the essential stuff, like the Snake Room.
Exactly. What the story you tell is really where ours started from. So we lived in really rural North Carolina, and we had power. We went without power for 4 days. And why I knew about the footprint of the tank was that I had 3 of those. I had a 75, I had an 80, and I had a 55, I think, all cichlids. And we're sitting there battery power, and we're bubbling these things, man. We're trying to stay warm. And finally we were able to get out of the mountains into Asheville, which Asheville's still in mountains, but compared to where we were, and we got a generator. But you're right about, you got to run cords everywhere. But those transfer switches are a really nice medium between having to get a big, like, house hooked up diesel generator. You can use the gas generator that you might only need once every 2-3 years. You say, just run it right into the transfer, and then I need to get one here. My neighbor has one. It's got a little handle. You just pull it up, and that's one position, or push it down, and that's the other position.
Yeah, because those portable generators, I mean, they cost a few $100s. I mean, you can get a bigger one, but I think anything between 400 to 800 is probably good enough to power most of the things in your house, including, your refrigerator.
We did.
But if you try to, sorry, go ahead.
Sorry, yeah. With my 4,000, we ran the fridge. I had a gas stove, so I didn't need that. The gas was good, and we had a gas fireplace, so that's how we had heat when the power went out for those days. But yeah, then we ran our internet off of it. So we had internet, we had TV, we had all of our fish tanks running, and that was before I had snakes. So I can't speak to the snakes, but the heat strips, I think I did the math one time. I think they pull about 7 watts per 4 feet on the 4-inch tape, but don't take that as gospel. Now I'm questioning that.
Yeah, if you get like one of those permanent ones, they're like $4,000.
Permanent what?
Generators, yeah.
Oh, that's on the cheap end. Yeah, the diesels. Yeah, you're gonna pay, yeah. And then that's doesn't include the electrical to get it wired and serviced and all that. You know.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So you said you were trying to, like, I guess, measure or estimate how much power those heat strips need.
Yeah, I think I wanted to say it was like 7 watts per 4 feet. Was I right on that or not? Was it said?
Oh, I don't know, but Phil, he actually posted something up on, I think, Instagram. This little device that you can use. You plug the device into your outlet, and then you plug you plug the device into your receptacle, and then you plug the outlet from your heat pad or whatever into that device, and it actually measure how much power that's drawing and give you an estimate how much it's going to consume over the course of a week or a month or whatever. Oh, Phil, cool. What is that thing called? If you can tell us what that thing's called, that'd be great. And he's saying that his rats, how much does your rat take? I lost it. 25 kilowatt hours. My rat shed uses 25 kilowatt hours a day during the cold on average. It's about $3.80 a day. That's pretty good.
Yeah. Kilowatt, Phil says. Oh, that's what it's called. Is that what the thing is called? I thought he was making a joke about kilowatt. Maybe that's what the little tool is called that you were talking about, Kai.
Oh, okay. Kilowatt. Oh, there you go.
Kilowatt.
Yeah, that might be what it's called. But then we're getting into rats again. You want to talk about rats? I know you want to talk about cats.
No. Well, no, we won't go. I don't have anything. I have opinions on rats. I don't have anything else really to add. I mean, I do. I was in your shoes too at like the first, second, and even the third year of breeding snakes. Like, I didn't want anything to do with rats. I wasn't allergic to them, but I was just thinking, like, if I can buy these, why am I spending time breeding them? I think you made a video, like, you said something about, like, you don't want to do it unless it's $50 an hour. Right. Yeah.
But once you get to having the need to feed more animals, if you're producing larger quantity of rats, that's where you start to see the savings, right? Because how much did you say you could save if you bred the rats? It wasn't that much, right? It was like maybe like $20 an hour.
Oh,
and you don't want to work for $20.
I forget it. Yeah, exactly. I forget.
Right, you don't want to work. If it's $20 a week, you just want to give somebody else that $20 and have them do that work because it's not worth it. Well, it's not worth it.
The other thing too is that I got to again, with volume I would, but I would have to recoup the facility expenses. Right now, it doesn't make sense because I'm not going to have them in my house. Like, everybody's situation is different. I'm not going to have them in my house. I got these allergies. I don't like them. I can't put a shed in my HOA situation. So it's not really an option for me anyhow.
I think the allergies really does it for you. Like, if you have allergies, you're just not going to do it. Like, no amount of money is going to make you want to sustain that suffering, right? Even if it's for 1 hour, because it's not going to just be for an hour. It's going to last probably the whole entire day. But once you get to more mouths to feed and you need to increase that's where you start to see savings. Like, I did a little experiment back in October of last year. And that time I was able to consistently produce 30 medium rats a week.
Okay.
And for 2 weeks, I was measuring how much food I was putting in, how much food and how much bedding I was putting in, and how much time I actually spend, cleaning and feeding and watering, which it turned out it wasn't that much because I'm pretty efficient. So I was putting in probably about $16, $17 worth of food, and I was using a week, $16, $17 food a week, and I was using 1 pack of the wood shavings, which is only like $7
Yeah.
for 2 weeks. So if we break that in half, essentially the input, the cost going in was only $20. I was only spending about 50 minutes cleaning everything. And then throughout the week, I might go in and just like shake the bucket to make sure it's not empty.
Yeah.
But so it wasn't so. So we could say that $20 going in and 1 hour of work per week, and the output was 30 medium rats. Now, if you want to compare it to some online prices, I think at that time I was comparing it to Rodent Pro, and a medium rat on there was like $3.10, $3.20, something like that. So 30 medium rats from Rodent Pro would have been like $95.
You say just call it 100 for even. Yeah.
Yeah. So in essence, I was saving $75 to $80 by just spending that 1 hour doing it myself. But there's other things that you have to consider too, because like you said, your facility. You have to consider other stuff as well. But also, there's some benefits in just having that in your house or next to your house or on your property, right? Because if you need something on a pinch, you can just walk out there and grab a rat and bring it back in. Also, if let's say the websites don't have what you need, your local supplier is short, you have something. Because when it comes down to breeding season, if you skip 1 or 2 weeks, that female that was at 15, 20 millimeter follicle size, she might start reabsorbing. So that's why last year I started to breed my own, because I felt like a couple of the females might have been able to lay a clutch had I not been short on rats. And those clutches weren't cheap either. You know, like they were like, it was like a pot to a pied pairing.
Yeah.
And so it felt like it was worth it, even if I could save one clutch. So it felt like it was worth it for me. But I don't have allergies. And I kind of, in the beginning, I didn't like rats.
Yeah.
Right. I was like, who wants a rat as a pet? But what I did, and I don't know if I told you this, but I started not with feeder rats. I started with pet quality rats.
Mm-hmm.
So if you go to a pet store, don't go to the back where you get the feeder rats. Go to the display cages where you see the hamsters and stuff, and you get those rats because, first of all, they're social. They're more social. Like somebody's been handling them. They're also bred. That the line, they have better temperament, and they also have cooler morphs. So just like ball pythons, rats have mutations too. They got the Dumbo ears, all these different colors: the blues, the greens, the hooded, the grays, the piebalds. And they have different fur, the Rex fur, the hairless, and all that stuff. So if you look in my rat rack, whatever you want to call it, you're going to find pretty much all of them are Dumbo ears, because I just find that much better looking than the regular ears that kind of stick up. The Dumbo ears are big and they're on the side.
Oh, okay.
Most of them are black, hooded. So their face, their mask is black with a stripe of black down their back. So most of my females are black hooded, or they're just solid white, or they're Siamese, meaning they just have like black patches around their eyes, their ears, and their nose. But for the males, I'll pick like a blue or a fawn or something like that. So I'm actually like playing around with mutations in my rat rack too. So that's
cool.
Kind of fun.
All right, so you're enjoying it, yeah. So for everybody's understanding of scale, I'm talking about, I have 27 snakes right now, and everybody's situation is different. Somebody mentioned, well, just use your garage. Well, I do use my garage, but it's my music studio, it's my office where I work, my day job, and it's my snake facility. So the garage is the garage is done. There's no more garage to go around. So my main point is that it right now, it doesn't fit me so well. I don't have any desire to in the future. But to your point, Kai, if I have 70 or 80 or 90 snakes to feed, I might have to switch. The other thing I found is most people, and Kai, you've never said this to me, but most people that feed live haven't had a chance to condition their animals to frozen thawed. Everybody says, "Oh, it takes forever." It doesn't. I'm done. I mean, my animals, they know that tongue goes in there with the rat. Boom, it's done. There's no. Everybody's like, "Oh, you got to put on a puppet show and this and that." No. To start them, perhaps, but no. Mine go. The time is not the problem for me, and so I get the financial equation. And maybe I'll be there. I also, if I were still in rural North Carolina, I actually might consider it, because if I'm delayed or I need something in a pinch now in this Jacksonville metro area, there's two really great reptile shops in town. And then there's a pretty good breeding community that I'm starting to get more and more familiar with, now around here as well. Whereas in North Carolina, that would have never been an option. That just wasn't, even with the hoppers for the hatchlings. I'm not sure how I would have made it work in North Carolina. I would have had to have secured a breeding contract with somebody, I guess. I'm not sure how that would have worked, to tell you the truth.
Yeah, I'm with you on the frozen stuff. I don't think it takes that long. I started with frozen. I still have frozen. Most of mine are frozen. Even the 30 mediums that I pull out of my rat rack, I gas them off before I feed them because they're mediums.
Yeah.
They could turn around and bite the snake, and then the snake will be like, "Oh, I'm off food for another month."
Yeah.
So I gas them. I still don't want to feed the lives. I take the lives out because they're alive, and then I would gas them off and then reheat them and feed it to my collection. The only lives that I do feed are if it's a baby, it's a hatchling. I start them on lives, but I try to transition them off to frozen thawed as quickly as possible.
So you're breeding your own frozen thawed, essentially.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay. I got you.
And then if there's like not a picky, but there might be an animal that just prefers live. I don't have many of them. Maybe 20 out of the 200 or so that I have are only on live. Once in a while, you'll get an animal that was or is on frozen, but decided to stop eating. If you throw in a live one, it kind of re-kicks them off on food again. And then you just give them frozen thawed again after that one live or two live meals. But yeah, like I try not to feed live. Just frozen is easier for me, at least, because I can order it or I can breed my own and then freeze them off.
Yeah.
And then I can just have them in my freezer. If I keep feeding them in my rat rack, not only am I spending more time cleaning, using up the space, giving them more food, but there's a chance that they're going to outgrow my snake. They might be too big.
Yeah.
It might be too big. And that's happened a couple of times where I didn't know what to do with it. I also grew attached to them when they got bigger.
Yeah.
And so I ended up like selling them to somebody that would keep them as a pet and not food.
Yeah.
So once they get to a certain size, I just gas them off. But right now I'm on this assembly line. So I think if you go into my rat rack now, there's like 6 tubs. One tub of like 32 that are gonna be mediums by Friday, and then they're just like another tub that's just slightly smaller, another one that's just slightly smaller, and then slightly smaller, another tub that's weaned, and then the last one is like a tub of pups. Yeah. But you do see savings. I mean, like I said,
I'm sure.
in my example, my savings were about $75 to $80 over purchasing them online. And now, remember, I did that experiment back in October. So now I actually have more rats. So instead of 30 mediums, I have 32 to 34 mediums. And throughout the week, I'm pulling out like maybe 5 to 10 of various sizes between fuzzies and smalls throughout the week. Just because I have some animals that might, like, for example, if I was pairing a male with the female during feeding day, right? When they unlock, I want to give that male a meal right away. So I just go and grab a weed or something
Oh,
and
I
toss
see.
it in there.
Yeah. Yeah. I got you. Yeah. It works for me as I'll say, I see people saying the finances are one thing, retail is another. I find buying in bulk, frozen, and storing them in the freezer works for me. You talked about my spreadsheets, Kai. Like it works in the mix of what I have and what I'm doing right now. If to also what we were talking about, where sort of sales intersect with hobby, if I can get my sales per snake average to improve, which in theory it should every breeding year, because in theory you're producing a little bit better each year across the board as an average of whole. I think it'll work. And honestly, in the room that I have, the scope, I don't know, maybe 50 or 60 is the most snakes that really I'll ever have in this building, in this facility. Now, granted, I might buy a house and move, but there's nothing on the horizon for that. So all of that stuff together is where I've landed at my decision, which also could change and evolve. Who knows? That could happen as well.
Yeah, just do what works. If you don't need to breed, then don't, because it is kind of messy and smelly. And if all your animals are frozen, there's really no need to breed, especially on a smaller scale. Like you said, just give somebody else that $20 and have them do all the work.
Yeah, and we've got some other animals that I got to go to the pet store anyhow for. So it's not like I'm going out of I've got 3 that are still on live that just, I can fight them and they cannot grow and I'll keep them alive, or I can feed them live and they thrive. So I feed them live, but I'm already going to the pet store anyhow. Now, if I was just taking that trip every week just because of those specifically, that would drive me nuts. But all the rest I buy at the bulk prices, as long the shipping gets down fairly inexpensive if you fill the box each time you get it. But you got to have a freezer to do that. So, you got to have a few things in place. You're going to buy a freezer, you're going to buy a rat rack, or you're going to, again, I get it that it fits and makes a whole lot more sense for other people. For me and my situation and HOA suburbia, this works right now for me.
Yeah, and that's fine. That's perfectly fine. That's what I did in the beginning. Like I said, I didn't even want to breed rats. I didn't want to touch rats. But as it got bigger, I start feeling a need for it, and it gives me a little bit more flexibility as well. But
you bring up the good points about just being able to grab one. Because at first I was like, well, I don't know that I would have an emergency feeding situation, but I get what you mean about the conditioning of right after they finish breeding.
Especially if it's your MVP male, you don't want him to skip a week at all. You never want him to skip a week, because skipping a week means that he might not lock with the female the following week. So you definitely want to keep him feeding and conditioned. But yeah, I mean, if that's not an issue, then you definitely don't need to breed. And like you said, if you're just going to the pet store every week anyway, you can just grab.
Yeah, we kind of go there and hang out anyway. So. Well, so speaking of MVPs, the 2 quick kind of cool things, that pied het albino that you had produced that has ended up in my collection I bought from another breeder. It's really cool. He's got like a heart-shaped stamp in his pied pattern on his back, and he's in your intro. He's one of the pieds that's slithering across. It's just the coolest, smallest world ever. Like here's this intro that I watched about this guy building his PVC and pre-drilling his holes, and there's the damn snake. It's the same. It's an amazing thing.
That's your snake. That's snake. That's his 15 seconds of fame every single video.
That's it. That's George right there. That's his name now.
That's George.
But the other thing with George is that I commented in one of my videos, I think, that there was a female he just did not like. Man, he was just banging the side of the tub, wanting to get away and all that. Well, he finally locked with her. She's a leopard het pied. So I've got him breeding with her, and then the backup is an orange dream het pied.
Let me ask you, you mentioned he was like banging and everything. Did you happen to touch another male before you introduced that pied to your leopard head pied?
You know, maybe I did. So these are things that like now. So I'm wondering from our conversation tonight, like, have I been feeding all screwed up during breeding season? I'm like, now I have something new to worry about. And now you ask this question. I generally do all my pairings on Wednesdays unless there's like this killer storm coming in, or if I'm going to be out of town and I need to change some plans or whatever. But usually Wednesday morning, I go through my checklist of who's been paired with what and who's up next kind of thing and keep track of my rotations.
Mm-hmm.
And then I just go do them. So yeah, I may very well have grabbed another male first.
Because sometimes you have the previous male scent on your hand.
Yeah.
And that pied might be just sensitive to that scent. And so as soon as you touch him, it leaves the male scent on him. And when you put him with the female, he might still think there's a male around.
Right.
And he's just bashing against the female because that's the only other animal that's moving in that tub.
Yeah.
And she has nowhere to go.
Right.
So that might do something with it. Because I noticed that, like, somebody told me last year that popping the male before you put him with the female helps. I found that it actually didn't help, didn't make a difference.
Yeah.
So I stopped doing that. But last year I noticed that, you know, the male that I popped, obviously I have some of his scent, like very potent scent on my hand.
Yeah.
And when I go touch the next one, they're like pushing at me.
Yeah.
So the very first one is fine. It's always the second, the third, the fourth one, and down the line, they're all pushing at me because I have more and more of that smell. So the last one I touch is like now there's 14 of them around me.
Right. Yeah.
I'm just previous 14
by a bunch of dudes. Yeah. Huh.
Yeah.
I'm going to try putting, he does seem more sensitive than the others. I'm going to grab him first from now on. And then actually I'm going to start washing my hands in between because I've got,
I mean, you don't have to wash it. I'm just saying, like, because some of them don't care. Some of them just don't care about the scent. But
I've only got 8 breeding females. Okay. Yeah. This is
and plus you want to use your sink. You want to use your brand new sink.
I have the sink. Yeah, I can use the left basin or the right basin. I can spray it or turn the faucet on.
Decisions.
I know. Well, hey Kai, we're at an hour 40 right now, man. I gotta wrap this one up. I didn't tell anybody at the beginning, but I'm absolutely exhausted. I came in off the road this morning at about 5 and I still put in a full day worth of work. And then I did the show tonight. So I'm in La La Land. I'm out of here, man. Thanks as always for being here. I hope you get rich this year, and I mean it. And happy Chinese New Year to you.
All right, thank you.
I hope that you've had good celebrations. And I always enjoy you on the show. We have a good time, and we always seem to click. And I've always appreciated you, and I hope you know that. You've been real good to me in this hobby, man. So
likewise. Best
of luck on the breeding season. I'll keep you posted on mine. Everybody, next week I don't have a host slated, and I haven't done a solo show in a while, so I'm contemplating a solo show, but you never know what pops up. We might have a guest, but we will have a show next week. I don't know 100% what it is. And if you haven't seen the episode with Dr. Seidel, check it out. It's worth your time. I'm going to do a video on that, but I'm getting her my sheds first before I do another video on it. That's what I got to say. Joking. Get all your sheds to Dr. Seidel. Kai, thanks so much. I'll see y'all next time, everybody. Thank you. Good night, guys.
Bye, everyone.